The Villisca Axe Murders, the house that locked itself. A quiet town, a morning of horror. Villisca, Iowa. A small, peaceful town in the heart of America. The kind of place where folks waved from front porches, kids played until dark, and no one ever thought to lock their doors at night. But that all changed. On the morning of June 10th, 1912. That Monday started like any other. Neighbors stepped out into the warm summer sun, ready for a new week. But at the Moore residence, something was wrong. No one had come outside. No one had lit the stove. No children's laughter. No morning hustle. Just silence. Mary Peckham, the Moore family's next-door neighbor, knocked on the door. No answer. She waited, knocked again. Nothing. Worried, she called Josiah Moore's brother and the local authorities. What they found inside would haunt Villisca for generations. The house was still, too still. In the guest bedroom, the bodies of two young girls. In the upstairs bedrooms, Josiah Moore, his wife Sarah, and their 4 children, all murdered. All 8 victims had been bludgeoned to death with an axe while they slept, without a sound, without a struggle. The horror wasn't just in the act. It was in the precision, the calm. Whoever did this took their time, covered mirrors, closed curtains, left food uneaten on the table, and then disappeared. Not through a broken window, not with a smashed-in door. The house was locked from the inside. The victims and the locked door. The victims were the Moore family, well-respected, well-liked, and known throughout Villisca. Josiah B. Moore, 43 years old. Sarah Moore, 39. Their children, Herman, 11, Catherine, 10, Boyd, 7, and Paul, 5. And 2 overnight guests, Lena Stillinger, 12, Ina Stillinger, 8. The Stillinger girls were friends of Catherine. They'd attended a children's service at church with the Moore family the night before and stayed over for a sleepover, just a fun Sunday night with friends. No one could have known it would be their last. All 8 had been killed with brutal efficiency, each struck repeatedly in the head with the blunt end of an axe, the Moore family's own axe, in fact. Their faces were so badly damaged that identification had to be made through clothing and dental records. But the most disturbing detail? There were no signs of forced entry. The doors were locked from the inside. Even more chilling, every mirror in the house had been covered with cloth. A slab of raw bacon lay wrapped in a towel on the floor near the axe. A bowl of bloody water was found in the kitchen, and near Josiah's body, a plate of uneaten food sat untouched. Whoever did this had taken their time. They had washed up. They may have sat down for a meal. It wasn't just a murder. It was a performance. Neighbors swore they hadn't heard a single thing. No screams, no breaking glass. Just nothing. It was as if the killer had slipped in and out of the house like a ghost. The town was stunned. How could someone do this and leave no trace? Villisca would never be the same. A botched investigation and unlikely suspects. In the hours that followed the discovery, the Moore home became the center of chaos. Police cordoned off the property, but it was too late. By then, more than 100 curious neighbors had already wandered through the house. Some stepped over the bodies. Some touched evidence. Others even took souvenirs. One man claimed to have taken a piece of Josiah's skull as a keepsake. Another carved a piece from the door frame. The crime scene was ruined. In the midst of the panic, suspects began to emerge. Some logical, some downright bizarre. Suspect 1. Frank F. Jones, a wealthy local businessman and former employer of Josiah Moore. Rumors swirled about bad blood between the two, particularly over lost business and a possible affair involving Frank's daughter-in-law and Josiah. Many believed Jones had the motive and the means. Some speculated he hired a hitman, a man named William Mansfield. But despite the gossip, no solid evidence ever surfaced. Suspect 2. William Blackie Mansfield, a known criminal, accused of killing his own family with an axe just 2 years later. His crimes mirrored Villisca's: entire family murdered, axe used, curtains drawn, mirrors covered. The parallels were chilling. He was arrested, interrogated, but eventually released. Why? Because he had a solid alibi. Suspect 3. Reverend George Kelly, a traveling preacher, small, wiry, and deeply disturbed. He had been in Villisca the night of the murders. He even attended the children's church service with the Moore family. After the murders, he fled town. But what drew attention wasn't his disappearance. It was the letters. He sent graphic, unsolicited descriptions of the crime to law enforcement, so detailed they couldn't have come from the public news. He was arrested in 1917, 5 years after the crime. Under pressure, he confessed, then recanted. The case went to trial, but the jury couldn't agree. Kelly walked free. Once again, no justice. And just like that, the list of suspects turned to shadows. Leads faded. Witnesses died. And the house remained, still, watching, waiting. The pattern: other axe murders across America. What if the Villisca murders weren't unique? What if they were just one stop along a bloody trail? Because as investigators dug deeper, they found something disturbing. Other families, other towns, same weapon, same method, same silence. In the years before and after 1912, America saw a string of eerily similar axe murders. Rainier, Washington, 1911. Colorado Springs, Colorado, 1911. Ellsworth, Kansas, 1911. Paola, Kansas, 1912. Monmouth, Illinois, 1912. Lake Charles, Louisiana, 1912. Columbia, Missouri, 1914. In nearly every case, the killer, struck at night, killed entire families in their beds, used the blunt end of an axe, covered mirrors, left food untouched, and vanished without a trace. Some homes were locked from the inside. Some victims had clothes draped over their faces. And the murder weapon? Almost always found at the scene, cleaned, placed neatly, like a signature. Investigators began to suspect The killer may have been a transient, a drifter, hopping from town to town by railroad. Each town was small, each close to a rail line, each unaware they were next, until it was too late. They called him the man from the train. No name, no face, just a theory that someone, somewhere, was watching, waiting, and killing in the same cold, calculated way. And if it's true, then Villisca was just one chapter, one of many homes that locked itself from the inside, not because of safety, but because the killer was already there. A house left haunted. After the blood dried and the reporters left, the house at 508 East 2nd Street remained, silent, staring, and never truly empty. No one lived there for long. Renters came and went, some after only days. They all said the same thing. Something's wrong with that place. Some claimed to hear footsteps at night. Others swore they saw shadows pass by the windows long after the lights were out. Doors would open on their own. A child's giggle would echo from upstairs when no child was there. Locals started calling it the murder house. Kids dared each other to run up and touch the door. Some swore they saw a pale face watching from the second floor. In 1994, the house was purchased by Darwin and Martha Lynn, preservationists who wanted to restore it, not modernize it. Restore it exactly as it was in 1912. Same furniture, same layout, same eerie silence. They opened it as a museum. And something strange happened. People started coming, not just tourists, but ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, skeptics, believers. Shows like Ghost Adventures, Scariest Places on Earth, and Kindred Spirits all filmed inside. And they all left with the same chills. One night in 2014, a man named Robert Lorson Jr. booked an overnight stay. Just him, alone, in the house. At around 12:45 a.m., he stabbed himself in the chest with a knife. No note, no motive, just one chilling line. The house told me to do it. He survived, but the legend of the house, it only grew stronger. Today, you can still stay the night, if you dare. You can walk the creaking floors, lie in the replica beds, and maybe, just maybe, feel the eyes of something that never left. Final theories, no final answers. Over a century later, and still, no one knows who did it. The Villisca Axe Murders remain one of the most terrifying unsolved crimes in American history. 8 lives ended. No fingerprints, no footprints, no witness. Just a house that locked itself and never gave up its secrets. Let's break down the leading theories. Theory 1. The hired killer. Frank Jones, Josiah Moore's former employer and political rival. Josiah had worked at Jones's hardware store but left on bad terms. Took clients with him. There were even rumors he had an affair with Jones's daughter-in-law. Could Jones have hired someone to kill the Moores? Maybe. But if so, why kill the children? Why the Stillinger sisters? And most importantly, why such a ritualistic method? Theory 2. William Blackie Mansfield. the traveling axe man. He killed his family with an axe in 1914, eerily similar to Villisca. He had motive, a record, a pattern, and the murder weapon? Same kind, same approach, but he had an alibi, and police had no real proof. So he walked. Theory 3. Reverend George Kelly, the confessor. A deeply disturbed preacher who had a history of mental illness and sexual deviance. He confessed to the murders in detail, then recanted. He knew things no one else did. But his confession was erratic. His trial ended in a hung jury. Some still believe he was the killer. Others say he just wanted attention. Theory 4. The man from the train. A nameless drifter who used rail lines to travel the country and kill. Many believe he was responsible for dozens of axe murders from 1898 to 1912. He followed a method, a ritual. He never stayed, never repeated a town, just killed, then vanished. No name, no face. Just a shadow, passing through. 8 people lost, and no one ever held accountable. The Moore house still stands, the beds still made, the axe still on display, and that door still creaks shut on its own. The legacy of Villisca. More than a century has passed since that night in 1912, but the name Villisca still sends a chill down the spine. It's no longer just the name of a small Iowa town. It's a symbol, a warning, a question that still hangs in the air like fog. How can evil walk in, slaughter an entire family, and vanish without a trace? The Villisca Axe Murders changed this town forever. Today, the Moore house is a museum, but it doesn't feel like one. It feels like a preserved crime scene, a time capsule of horror. Visitors report cold spots, doors closing on their own, children's laughter echoing from empty rooms. Some refuse to stay the night. Others never make it past the front door. But beyond the ghost stories, something deeper remains. The profound injustice. The haunting of no closure. 8 lives stolen. 2 little girls visiting for a sleepover. Gone. A family wiped out. And a town that still looks over its shoulder after dark. And we're left with questions. Who truly did this? Was Villisca part of something bigger? Are there other homes, other families, whose stories were never told? We may never know. But we do know this. Sometimes, evil doesn't knock. It doesn't break a window. It doesn't scream. It slips in, waits, and locks the door behind itself. You've been listening to the American Mysteries Archives. Thank you for joining us tonight. And remember, some doors were never meant to be opened. We'll see you in the next case.
Subscribe for more chilling mysteries. Thanks for being here. See you in the next time.